Merovingian kings are known for their long and luxurious locks, which were often braided or interwoven with precious metals. But no Merovingian king comes close to matching the glorious mane sported by Pharaoh Pepi II of Egypt. His hairstyle was not just a symbol of his power and wealth, but also a practical tool used to control the very forces of nature. Welcome back, everyone. Today we'll explore the majestic mop top of Pharaoh Pepi II and uncover the secrets behind this regal coif. Known for his extravagant lifestyle, Pepi II ruled Egypt during the 6th dynasty from around 2283 to 2255 BCE. During his reign, he enjoyed all the trappings of power, including a lavish royal wardrobe. The famous Pepi's sandals, for example, were made of ivory and gold and are now displayed at the British Museum. He also had a predilection for fine linen, which he used not only to clothe himself in the height of Egyptian fashion, but also to adorn his royal barge. According to an inscription, his barge was covered in fine linen that reached down into the water like the petals of a lotus flower. But it was his headdress that truly set him apart. The pharaoh's most famous portrait is found on the walls of his mortuary temple at Abu Sir and shows him wearing one of his trademark tall crowns, which was usually reserved for the god Horus. In this image, Pep II wears the crown of Upper Egypt in the traditional red color of the desert, symbolizing his authority over the southern part of the kingdom. This particular crown is made of papyrus plants, and two tall white plumes rising from the top represent the god Horus. Interestingly, these plants are not actually native to Egypt, and their inclusion in the crown may have been meant to signify Pepi's foreign conquests. However, the crown wasn't the only headgear worn by the pharaoh. He was also known to sport a much simpler and more comfortable headdress, a type of hat with two long ear flaps. These hats were commonly worn by Egyptians working in the fields and were probably given to Pepi II as a gift when he visited the countryside. But even this simple garment took on added meaning when worn by a pharaoh. The tall crown was a powerful symbol of the pharaoh's divine right to rule. It represented the pharaoh's connection to the gods and gave him authority over his subjects. But it also had a more practical function. It allowed the pharaoh to be easily identified from a distance, which was important for maintaining order and security. The tall crown was so iconic that it even became a symbol of Egypt itself. The ancient Greeks used a stylized version of the crown as a symbol of the Egyptian people, and it has continued to be used as a symbol of Egypt throughout history. But what about the pharaoh's more casual wear? The simple hat with the two long ear flaps was a more humble garment, but it too became associated with the pharaoh. When worn by Pepi II, the hat became a symbol of his connection to the common people. It showed that he was not too proud to wear simple clothing and that he was willing to identify himself even when he was incognito. However, there is one detail about the pharaoh's headdress that is often overlooked. If you look closely at the images of Pepi II, you will notice that he is almost always depicted wearing a wig. At first glance, this may seem like a strange detail, especially since we don't have any surviving examples of wigs from this period. However, the wig tells us something important about Pep II's mindset. It shows that he was willing to take on the appearance of the gods themselves. Wigs were seen as a way to enhance one's natural beauty and to make oneself appear more divine. And Pep II was clearly not afraid to use every tool at his disposal to maintain his image as a god king. So why does any of this matter? Why should we care about the wig and headdress worn by a pharaoh who lived thousands of years ago? The answer is simple. By studying the clothing worn by ancient rulers like Pepi II, we can learn about the culture and society in which they lived. Clothing is more than just a way to cover our bodies. It's a way to express our identity, status, and beliefs. And by understanding what the ancient Egyptians wore, we can better understand their culture and way of life. We can also learn about the ancient world through the artwork depicting these rulers. By studying these images, we can see how the Egyptians viewed their pharaohs and what they believed about their role in society. We can also learn about the techniques and styles used by the ancient Egyptian artists. So don't dismiss those old paintings and statues as just pretty pictures. They're a window into a lost world and a valuable source of information about ancient Egyptian culture. There's a lot of debate among historians about the exact origins of wigs. Some believe they originated in hot climates as a way to protect the head from the sun, while others believe they were first used as a symbol of wealth and power. Regardless of their origins, wigs quickly became a popular accessory for the rich and powerful throughout history. During the Egyptian era, wigs were typically made from human hair, which was shaved off the heads of slaves or prisoners of war. The hair was then woven together to form a single piece of cloth that could be shaped into a variety of styles. Wigs were also sometimes decorated with jewels and other ornaments, making them an even more conspicuous symbol of wealth and power. But wigs weren't just a tool for the rich and powerful. They were also used by ordinary Egyptians to protect their heads from the elements and to keep their hair out of their face. However, there was a clear distinction between the wigs worn by the elite and those worn by the general population. The wigs worn by the rich and powerful were made from the finest materials and often featured elaborate designs. Those worn by the common people were more simple and practical. The ancient Egyptians were known for their elaborate hairstyles, and wigs played an important role in this. Men and women alike would spend hours each day styling their hair and applying makeup to create the perfect look. For men, this often involved shaving the sides of their head and leaving a strip of hair down the middle. This strip would then be braided or twisted and decorated with jewels and other ornaments. Women's hairstyles were even more elaborate. They would often shave the sides of their head and leave a long braid hanging down their back. The braid would be decorated with flowers, jewels, and other ornaments, and sometimes even false hairpieces would be attached to the end of the braid to make it longer and thicker. There is evidence that the ancient Egyptians kept dogs specifically for the purpose of producing their mummified remains as a form of fake fur, used as a decoration on clothing and accessories such as shoes and scepters. While the Egyptians did not domesticate cats until later, they still revered them as sacred animals and kept them as pets. Because cats were often mummified and buried with their owners, the Egyptians had access to their fur, which they used to create decorative items such as jewelry and small rugs. But the ancient Egyptians weren't the only ones to rock the fur. Throughout history, many cultures have used animal skins and fur to decorate themselves and their belongings. For example, the indigenous peoples of the Arctic Circle have used furs for thousands of years to stay warm in the harsh climate. Similarly, the Native Americans have a long tradition of using animal skins to create clothing and accessories. In fact, the Navajo are known for their beautiful hand-woven rugs that often feature intricate patterns and designs made from sheep and goat fur. And let's not forget about those furry slippers we all love to cuddle up in on a cold winter night. Who could resist those soft and fuzzy wonders? Of course, it's important to remember that the use of fur in fashion has been a controversial topic for many years. Animal rights activists argue that the fur trade is cruel and inhumane, while those who support the use of fur argue that it is a sustainable and environmentally friendly material. Whatever your stance may be, there's no denying that fur has a long and fascinating history that dates back thousands of years. From the ancient Egyptians to the modern day, humans have been using animal skins and fur to decorate themselves and their belongings. What did you think about Pepi II's hairstyle? Do you think it was cool or ridiculous? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.